What are some things that people don't realize would happen if there was actually a zombie outbreak? The entire world would smell fucking awful 24/7. All trousers and underwear will fall down around the ankles of decomposing type zombies. Most survival plans revolve around land. Fuck that. I'm off to an offshore rig. Those things are built like cities. The question is, will the zombies run like in Zombieland or just walk slowly like in The Walking Dead? If they run, people that don't exercise are fucked. People would stop mowing their lawns. Imaging breaking your glasses while fighting off zombies. Without my glasses, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a zombie and a survivor unless they're within arm's reach. Forget about sneaking around. I need my fellow survivors to identify themselves so I don't attack them. I would imagine that the diseases that would arise from so much rotting flesh wandering around would be worse than the zombies. The government wouldn't collapse as quick as most people imagine. Most movies depict the entire nation's structure crumbling in a matter of weeks, sometimes days. This is pretty illogical considering how large most nations' militaries are and how many options and opportunities the government would have to contain the virus in the first place. Martial law is a powerful device. A lot of people would die from zombie bites, but even more would die from diseases only treatable with antibiotics, insulin, and chemotherapy. When the world collapses, everything collapses. You might dodge a zombie bite, but then die from a scratch on your leg from where you brushed against a rusty nail. To make that dodge happen, most of the survivors after the initial collapse wouldn't die because of the zombies. Fire. As millions of people flee into the wilderness, they'll begin making fires for warmth, security, cooking food, and boiling water. Many of these fires, set and maintained by inexperienced refugees, will get out of control in a world without firefighters. Others will be started deliberately by people trying to stop zombies, or accidentally during battles between factions of survivors. Buildings will burn, and prairies, and forests, chemical plants, and God help us, probably more than one nuclear plant in the world will ignite as their contents go unmonitored and untended. And this is added to the more than 20,000 fires started every year in the United States by lightning strikes. Not only will there be huge clouds of toxic smoke to deal with and raging wildfires, but the long-term effects of these will hurt the chances of any survivors. The release of all these aerosols will suppress cloud formation, meaning the year or two following the initial collapse will be cold and dry, and any storms that do appear will be much stronger. Campsites will be buried in snow or washed away by mudslides when burnt out forests are hit by spring flooding. Disease. The abandoned cities, filled with millions of corpses and dead pets and tons of rotting food for all of them, will breed a bumper crop of scavengers. Rats, opossums, raccoons, cockroaches, flies, they'll all feast. The same will apply in the rural countryside, where the CAFOs, concentrated animal feeding operations, will fall one by one. In many, the farmers will have opened the doors for their pigs and chickens and cows. In others, zombies will pick off the livestock, shambling through the cows and eating until they rupture their own guts. In many, though, thousands of animals will die in piles, and their decomposing corpses will poison rivers with bacteria. Mosquitoes will breed in the billions, as basements flood and buildings collapse and water pools in the nooks and crannies of overturned cars. At first, the refugee camps will set up boilers for their water and ingenious gravity-powered charcoal filters. But bit by bit, this improvised infrastructure will be abandoned as survivors flee. Many people will have to drink from rivers tainted by chemical spills, gasoline, dead animals, corpses, or simply a zombie upstream that got its leg pinned under a rock. Many others will eat food contaminated by roaches or rats. Many people will simply do their best to deal with their waste in a world without toilet paper or hand sanitizer and fail. Dysentery, cholera, cryptosporidium. They'll take millions. Exposure. Most people won't die in the first couple of months, but many will in that first winter, which will be much harsher than usual. They'll underestimate the power of the cold. They'll underestimate how much to eat, how much they should cover up. They'll be running in tennis shoes through 3-foot drifts. And as survivors become truly desperate, competition for food in the best shelters will spawn a new wave of violence. As I mentioned, the floods of the first post-zombie spring will be disastrous. Levees and pumps and dams will not be maintained, letting waters rise beyond control. In Chicago, built on fill dumped into flat swampland, and Manhattan, where the water table is just a few feet below street level, many survivors will be forced to flee as waterlogged. Foundations threaten the buildings, where they duck shelter. Wildfires and untended harvests will leave fields bare, meaning fierce storms will sweep millions of tons of precious topsoil into the rivers. Mudslides will kill, and another wave of disease as the floodwaters push more chemical and bacterial contamination into the waterways. In colder areas, the rats and cockroaches will be gone, but raccoon and opossum populations will have exploded, and it will be hard to find houses to shelter in that haven't been polluted with scavenger waste. TL. Doctor, a zombie is less likely to get you than a blade or bullet, and none of those is as likely to get you as diarrhea or asthma or natural disaster. Edit. This scenario presupposes the zombies overwhelmed civilization, and it doesn't deal with the questions of whether the zombies would win, and it assumes the zombies don't rot, and also we're talking about fucking zombies, so why are we all fighting anyway? I write other stuff like this from time to time. Check out /r/profrec451, please and thank you. There would still be too many half-empty water bottles laying around everywhere. That zombies are basically the worst possible life form. The one species that is most willing and able to kill them is also their only food source and their only means of reproduction. Flies. So many flies. If you lost/break your glasses, good luck finding the right pair when you raid an optical shop. Everybody tends to forget about dental hygiene during an apocalypse. It's something we take for granted today and something we won't have during an apocalypse. Gasoline has a shorter shelf life than most people assume, so after a year nobody would really be driving anywhere. The world government are most likely to launch nuclear strikes on zombie hotspots, killing equal amounts of healthy people. Zombies would decompose to the point where they can't move/die in a couple months/years. It will be over pretty quickly. Zeppelins are back in fashion. Zombies don't put the seat down when they are done. Biting is a pretty bad way to spread a disease, so any outbreak probably wouldn't get far unless it has another vector. Most people assume they'll be one of the survivors holed up in a Walmart or Costco being badass with a crossbow when really, they'll be bitten and infected while on the toilet, or pumping gas or some mundane shit. People don't realize how quickly it would burn itself out. What gives humans any competitive edge evolutionary speaking is the very thing zombies lack, the brain. Humans without brains are a C-tier animal, at best, that will have some luck in an initial outbreak of feeding and fighting, but will be bested by deer and foxes. This says nothing about the continued decomposition that will, inevitably, render locomotive abilities useless, humanity's second biggest strength. Zombies are humanity minus anything that gives them an advantage at anything. Why are we afraid of them again? Edit. Guys, I understand the fundamental fear at play with zombies, even if the same effect already exists in Komodo dragons, which admittedly scare me a little. You can stop explaining why people find them terrifying. It's stupidly easy to contain a zombie infection. Realistically, even if a bunch of people got infected and there's no going back once you've turned, then there's really nothing stopping cops/military from mag dumping everything they see that does a zombie sound or just carpet bombing whatever horde they see from the sky. They'd probably mount automatic shotguns to the sides and front of cars and drive around downtown blasting everything in a 360-degree radius. Heck, knowing today's world, Jeff Bezos would probably retrofit the Walmart robot to casually push zombies away from the storefront with an oversized broom. Sit, they wouldn't even have to use bullets. Hop on the APC and run them over. What is a zombie gonna do against 160mm of steel alloy armor moving over it at 40 miles per hour? Also, the only headshots count would be a movie thing only. A zombie that has been detonated to bits and whose only danger is me tripping on it is not a threat. All you gotta do is render them immobile/unfunctional. Horror movie tropes aside, a crawling zombie with no arms and legs would still be pathetically easy to avoid. Do me a favor. Get a friend. Get on your belly and try to play catch with him while crawling without using your arms and legs. Yeah, can't. Unless those zombies learn to do the worm, we are pretty safe if we give them a good baseball bat to the knees. Even if we are dealing with a total apocalypse scenario, what most people don't realize is that a zombie's worst enemy is the weather. Florida zombie become goo in less than 2 weeks. Alaska zombie turns into a popsicle in the first 36 hours. That is, if a gator doesn't get him or a bear. Also, calories must consume to sustain brain and muscle activity. People can say what they want about zombies, but the common consensus is the body doesn't move without a working brain and muscle system, undead or not, and most law state zombies are not paranormal, so this means a zombie gotta eat if he wants to move. If he doesn't eat, then his body will consume his muscle tissue to keep other bodily functions going. If 99% of the population has turned into zombies, what will they eat? Each other? They'd walking beef jerky sticks at this point. No magical virus is gonna keep your decaying body from getting affected by things like time, weather, the sun, and carrion. It will rot. And, from the perspective of a bear, a zombie would equal about 180 pounds of shuffling free meat. That is only dangerous to the hairless human apes. A zombie would be walking buffet to cats, dogs, birds, bears, fuck, everything that enjoys a free lunch. A zombie outbreak would be equal to a worldwide horror-themed holiday. A vampire outbreak, on the other hand, well, I suppose we'd also be safe with that one, if only we did not invite the fuckers inside.